Tonight, I have a fun workshop for you that's using a very unusual product, what I think is a very unusual product. And it is the ArtGraf, these are ArtGraf Tailor chalks. So, what is a Tailor chalk? A Tailor chalk is generally a piece of chalk that a tailor uses in order to mark off fabric, and they're shaped like this. So this is what I would call a Tailor block or a Tailor chalk. The difference is this one is made by a company in Portugal called ArtGraf, ArtGraf. And it is a water soluble block of pigment. It can be used either dry or it can be, you can wet it and it can be used wet. So I'm going to be showing you the different ways that I use these ArtGraf blocks. And the ArtGraf blocks originally only came in this set, which was your more organic colors, right? Your yellow ochre, your sanguine, your sepia, um, and the ArtGraf, or the company that makes these ArtGraf, is called Viarco. So you're going to see right here, it says Viarco. So Viarco is actually a very old pencil making company in Portugal. And they came up with this concept to make these uniquely shaped, tailor shaped blocks, so that when you're working on a larger piece, instead of holding something small in your hand or trying to cover a large area with a pencil, like this is a charcoal pencil, um, you could hold the block and use it on its side, and get large swaths of color instead of just using the um, small Conti, what are called Conti crayons that a lot of people use for drawing. And what I love about these is they're also water soluble. So it says here water soluble. You might not be aware, but a lot of the drawing pencils and charcoal, they're also water soluble. The difference is that this is made to be water soluble. So what happens is when you're using these, they the color kind of explodes off of there, which is very cool. I'm plugging my phone in just to be sure that I don't run out of juice this evening. uh, now, because the Viarco company is originally a pencil creator, they before they came out with those Tailor chalks, they came out with sticks of water soluble graphite. And also, this is a water soluble graphite pot. So it looks like that. And this is actually graphite in here. And I could, if it would pop out, I could actually take it out like this and I could draw with it because it is just graphite. But the cool thing about it is that it is water soluble. So instead of drawing with it like that, I could take a brush, get the brush wet and take some off of there. And then I have liquid graphite essentially, doing it that way. So they're well known for their pencils, the Viarco company, and for these liquid ArtGraf graphites. And then they came out with the Tailor chalks. Now, like I said, this was the original set that I bought, geez, um, a long time ago, over 10 years ago. And with those very natural colors. But now, since then, they've also come out with what they call a primary set. So this has blue, yellow, and magenta in it. And they came out with the primary set because then you can color mix with those three colors and get all kinds of different colors out of it, right? And I also, they allow you, in addition, to buy individual ones like this. So this set comes with a magenta, which is more of like a deep pink, right? And I wanted a red, like a true red, something more like a cadmium red. So I also bought separately the red like this. I bought the green and I bought the white. So this is all purchased with my own money. They are not sponsoring the show or anything, but I'm really excited about using the white one on, hey Foxhound, welcome in. I'm excited about using the white one on a tinted surface or a toned paper. I think it'll be so much fun. Um, Now, something that I generally use together with these, of course, is pencils, and um, a charcoal pencil works well if you want to do your outlining and then come back in with your art graph as a fluid. Or also, I like the Statler company out of Germany. This is one of Statler's Mars, they call them MARS pencil sets. So I really like the Statler tins. So you can see the blue ones are their pencils. And next to my desk, um, I have a whole cup full of pencils next to my desk here. And I always have next to me one of the, there's one of the Statler ones. This is an 8B. So that's a very smudgy graphite pencil. But I wanted to show this to you because this is what the tin looks like that you can get those pencils in. And this is an excellent, especially if you're starting out drawing, this is an excellent set for you to start out with. And of course, you can erase. So the set that I will have linked in the video after the video is over, I've already created the list of products that we'll be using. And so the set that I have linked in there also has an eraser in it. So this is my favorite eraser, and it's the Statler Mars white eraser. So that's actually what you can use also when you put out these blocks that you can go back in and erase. And that's my favorite, artist grade eraser for that kind of thing. Now, something else that you might want to use with the art graph and with the graphite is a blending stump. So I buy the blending stumps in big sets. But this is called a blending stump when it has the two ends like this. And then this is called a tortillon when it's wrapped paper and it's just one end like that you can hold in your hand. Either way, it's for blending out or when you have dry media like the pencils, the softer pencils, and when you have media like this that's relatively soft, you can use a blending stump on that. But we're also going to be using brushes and water because that's my favorite thing to do with these Tailor chalks. And let me show you some artworks that I've done with them. So this I did 10 years ago, back in 2015, when I first got my set that was more of the organic colors. Oops, it goes this way. There you go. And I love the combination of very earthy, where I use the block to make my shapes. And then I came back in with some water to give me the soft blends. So that was 10 years ago. But recently I did a set um, of pieces that are abstracted landscapes. And I was using watercolor, and then I came back in on top of the watercolor, and you see these lines and these like crazy marks here. That and this yellow up here, that is all from these Tailor chalks. So you can use them very, what I call expressively. So this is um, an expressive type of landscape. Um, Here's another one, and the same thing you can see here where I use the chalk. One of the nice things about the chalk is I like the way it has what's called a broken line. So instead of a line, like if I used a pencil, a line would be straight. But when I use the chalks, I get this broken line. You see that right there? So to me, the broken line is much more interesting and expressive. So, so I do things that are more realistic, and then I do things that are more expressive. And I mean, this makes my heart sing. I just love when I hit it with water, you can see the explosion of red that came up right there, right? But then I went back and dipped it. I dipped the whole Tailor chalk into water and then did these lines. And same here, dipped it into water so it would flow off of the edge of the chalk and give me those more expressive lines. So that's what we're going to be playing with tonight. This is just very simple. I took a photo of a pear in my kitchen. I was like, "Ooh, that pear has some nice colors, right? Has a little bit of green, some yellow, a little bit of red dots in it." So nothing is off limits in my house for me to go, "Oh, I love that." And I just throw it down on something white. I threw it down on a paper pad here and I just took a picture of it. That's a great piece to be able to use to try these. And now these are photographs of I love pomegranate. I have some in my refrigerator right now. I eat pomegranate all the time, and look at how rich that is with interesting colors to use with these VR code chalks. Fantastic. Now these are images that I took off of Pixabay. So in the article that I've written are links to, if they're not there now, I'll be adding them later tonight. Links to websites where you can find interesting imagery like this in order to play with for your for working with new materials like these. Now, here's something else that I just love. I bought a calendar for this year, and this was with the calendar. Right on the back of the calendar, it shows you all of the different images. And I thought, ooh, those are really nice organic images. So I cut them out, I saved them, and I have a book that has uh, the clear sleeves in it that I put these kind of images in for me to use as reference later. So for instance, this was the cover of it, and look at the variation here. This is like perfect type of image to use with these VR code chalks. Actually, we're going to start with the pear because you know how it is, pears and apples, right? Now, what kind of paper are we going to use to work with these ArtGraf? Because we can use them dry or we can hit them with water and get the colors to explode, which is what I like to do with them. So my all-time favorite watercolor paper is my studio workhorse, the Canson XL watercolor paper. It's 140 pounds. This happens to be the 9 by 12 size, which fits perfectly into an 11 by 14 mat. And this is a cold press paper, so there's a little bit of texture to it, and it looks great. Okay. So that is one that I use a lot, a lot. And what's nice because it's watercolor paper, you can use these Tailor chalks dry and you can also use them wet on the watercolor paper. And then this is a pastel paper also by Canson, same company. And it is different colors of pastel paper. So for instance, with the white chalk here, the white Tailor chalk, you might want to experiment with it as a dry media on some of these darker colors in here. And so this paper is not really made to take water. If you start putting water on this paper, it's going to do this. It's going to ripple. What I do in order to get a colored surface hey there, Tina Beans, welcome in over on Whatnot. What I do in order to get a toned paper, so a colored paper, to work on instead of using this, which if I just wanted to use it dry, I could use these Tailor chalks dry on this paper. But if I wanted to hit it with water, you're better off with a toned paper that will take moisture. And so what I do is I use um, a heavy, what's called a Bristol paper, or I could even use this watercolor paper that I just showed you from Canson. And I put on top of it an acrylic medium that is made for dry media and for pastels. So this is the one that I use quite a lot. It is by Pebeo, and it's a modeling paste, but it's called a high density modeling paste. So what that does is that gives me a surface like this. So this is that, you know, a heavy paper or a watercolor paper. And then I put this acrylic medium modeling paste, but I want you to hear this. Can you hear that? Where it's all scratchy? That's because this high density modeling paste, and the link to it will be in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight. After the video's over, I'll go back and I'll add this into the description on YouTube, okay? If you want to purchase some. But it gives you this beautiful toothy surface that will take dry media, charcoal, um, pastels, any of that stuff really nicely. And because it's just an acrylic medium, you can also pop a color into it. So if I wanted a red background, I could just take a little bit of red acrylic paint and just a little bit, and I could put it in with this medium, and then I could tint the medium to put on my paper. So that's what I've done here is I used some blue paint, acrylics, and I put it in with the high density modeling paste, and it gives me a beautiful toothy surface in custom colors, whatever colors I want. So here's another one with light blue like that. And so this is a beautiful surface for me to use. Actually, that already has some pastel on it, doesn't it? Oops. Okay, then let's do that. But there's another one of the blue ones. So I'm going to be using the blue um, with the white Tailor chalk, right? We're going to play with that a little bit to see how it goes. Now, what do you do in situations like this where you end up getting it all over your hands? Okay, where did I put them? Where did I put them? I have here in the studio um, some wipes, right? And did I leave them over there? Okay, there's some more here. Let me see. Let me see. There they are. There they are. So I just have some wipes and I keep them in the studio so that when I do things like that, then I've got, here we go. You can just wipe that right off. So definitely helpful to have wipes like this in the studio. Actually, in Jerry's Artorama, they have um, containers of what they call studio wipes. And the reason that I have these out for my studio for tonight is that when you're working with these ArtGraf, and especially if you're getting them wet or if your fingers are damp, then you're going to get color all over your hands. So the other thing that you can do if you don't want to have color all over your hands, like I'm already getting, then you can use gloves. So let me see here. In the studio, I have some studio gloves. There we go. So I may use those later when we get going with the Tailor chalks because it's going to get everywhere, all over everything. And I'm also wearing my Pebeo apron. Pebeo gave me this apron, and so at least I'm covered up, right? So my clothes can stay somewhat clean. Okay, so what we're gonna do is go over top of the table, and I'm gonna start putting these Tailor chalks to the test. You're gonna get to watch, and we'll make some projects together. Okay, so let's start with the watercolor paper from Canson. That's the Canson XL. And I think they call it XL for extra large because it has 30 sheets in it. It has a lot of paper. Most watercolor paper pads, when they're good quality watercolor paper, you'll find they only have 15 sheets in them, maybe 20 sheets, but this one has 30 sheets. So it is an excellent value for the money, in my opinion. Okay, so we are going to work with this Pear. Let me get this off there. Okay, so can y'all see that? All right, let me see. Let me see. Yes, there's the Pear. Awesome. And the colors of the pear, we're going to start with this set right here, which is the primary set. Brand new. I haven't opened it yet. It says right here, Portuguese Pencil Factory, like I was telling you earlier. So this, they put it in a nice case. Whoop, there we go. So that you can slide it back into the case to protect it. Let's get that off of there. It's stuck to the plastic that's covering it on the inside. There we go. Boop. Should be loose. Come on, y'all. I need to preserve the cover. Oh, show. All right. I might have to put something in there, like the end of a paintbrush, maybe, to help it not be sticking to that. Let's do that and then do this. Right? As artists, we have to get a little creative. There we go. Oh, it worked. Imagine. Okay, cool. So there, what is nice about the sets like this one and this one is they come in a cork, this really cool cork um, case. So here we're going to open this one up and I'm going to cut it very carefully here. And then, oh, brand new, beautiful blocks. Yes. Nice. And like I said, the nice thing about these is now there's the case to put them back into for storage. Fabulous to protect them. So what we're going to do is take the case off for the moment. And I'm going to set these right here. Let me make sure that you can still see. Oh, I'll fix that in just a minute. Okay, there we go. There's the paper. And good, you can see that nicely. And then there is the pear. Let me do this so the pear's up a little bit like that. And then we're going to be, like I said before, these are Tailor chalk shaped. So see that right there? Now they come solid, but they can break on you, which is perfectly fine. Don't cry if it breaks, okay? Because it's pure pigment. Each one of these Tailor chalks is pure pigment. So if you look here, you see how mine are all broken into pieces, but that's okay. That's pure pigment. And so I'm still going to be able to I'll be able to work with that. And I love that when you have blocks like this that are like you can use all of the pigment. Now, let's go ahead and swatch these. Let's see what the colors look like. So we're going to start out by taking, this is the magenta. So I'm just going to use the corner here and lay down some color. And then let's use the yellow. Wow, that yellow is beautiful. And the blue. And that's just using the corner of it. Now let's hit it with a little bit of water. So I have a brush right here. And whoo, you see that color explode, right? That's what I was mentioning before, how the colors just explode on the page. They're fabulous. And then here's the blue. Very, very dense. Way denser than when it's dry, right? Okay, now when I'm working with any sort of water media, whether it's watercolor or these kind of media, I always like to have a paper towel in my hand so that I can tap off my brush. Let's go ahead and let's take the yellow and we'll put down some yellow here and we'll put down some yellow here. And then I'm going to go right on top of the yellow. I'm going to use the red here and I'm going to go on top of the yellow with some red, which I should get an orange, right? When I get it wet with water. And here, when I put the blue on top of the yellow, then I should get a green. Oh, and then let's do this. We'll do a little bit of blue here. I'm going to move this out of my way so you don't have a shadow there. So here's a little bit of blue. Oh, It's already beginning to get it on my fingers because my hands got wet from my brush. And we're going to put a little bit of red on top of the blue. So when we color mix it, it should give us a purple, right? So here I'm just getting the brush wet, and this should give me an orange. Yep, beautiful orange. Look at that. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Just by layering, this should give me a beautiful green. Yep, there we go. A nice green. And then this should give me a purple. Yes, that's a powerful purple, isn't it? Woo! The color goes a long way. So it doesn't take much, and the color goes a long way. So I wanted to show you that to show you um, how it looks to color mix with these. Now, besides using them the way I just showed you, which was pick them up and put them on the paper, you can also just use a brush, for instance, a wet brush, not too wet, and I can just put it along here and use it like this, like a like a paint. Okay, that's just like a massive pan of paint right there. Oh, that'll work for the blue one. It'll work for the yellow one. And it'll work for the red one, just like that. So I could use water and like that with a brush and just use them as more like a traditional watercolor. But that's not the fun of it. The fun of it is picking them up and drawing with them, and then bam, hitting them with a brush and getting to see that insanity of the paint just releasing, right? So you can see quite a bit of color comes off of these blocks. That's why I love them, because they're so color rich. Now I've got my damp cloth here, right? And I'm going to wipe off as much, try to stay as clean as possible. All right, so let's go ahead and do the pear quickly. So we're just going to do what I would call a sketch. And I'm going to start the sketch by using one of these pencils that I showed you earlier. This is the Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencils. And so I'm going to come in here. I like pencils that are softer. The way pencils are is that you uh, there are hard leads and soft leads. So the H's are the hards and the B's are the softs. So the higher the number is, the harder or the softer the pencil is. Your regular pencil that you used in school was a 2B. So that's a middle of the road hardness. If you want a lighter line, you're going to use your harder pencils. If you want a darker, more squidgy line, you start going up in the B's. As a matter of fact, what's not in this set, but I have next to me at my desk, is an 8B, because I like my pencils actually to be quite dark. Do you see how dark that lead is? Oh, yes, yes. Um, and a dark lead like this will smudge a lot when you go and smudge it, or if you use a blending stump, it'll blend and you'll get a lot of grayness out of it, the more soft pencils that you use. But since we're just doing an outline, I'm going to use the middle, which is an HB, okay, for the pencil. And you can see the HB down here at the bottom. Okay, so we're just going to draw this pear right here, just an outline of the pear. And so we're going to start over here and go like this. So this is just a picture of a pear that I took in my kitchen. Okay, you don't have to do art, you don't have to have all kinds of fancy stuff. You could just use a pencil and grab some fruit out of your out of your refrigerator like I did. Okay, lovely, lovely. And there we go. So there's the shape of our pear. And then I'm going to use the colors in the pear to kind of inform me as to what I want to do here. So we're going to start out putting some yellow down. So I'm going to start with some yellow here, and I can use it as a dry media. Okay. So this is the watercolor paper I'm doing this on. So I'm using the end here and the side here. That's the cool thing about the side is you can really cover a large area that way. Okay, we're doing that. Now, how would I get brown? Because right up here is the stem, right? So brown, a good way that I usually go for brown is I'll mix an orange. So I will do like the yellow. Well, let's do it. The yellow here, and then I'll put some red on there on top of it. So the two of them together are going to kind of give me an orange, right? And then I'm going to put just a tiny bit of blue on there. So you can just layer your colors like that. And then when I hit it with my brush, so I've got my brush here with my water, and remember to tap, tap, so you don't have too much water on there. And then I'm literally just having the colors blend right on the surface. Cool, there's a brown, just like that. I got to my brown. Now, right now I've got yellow all over the pear, but we want some areas to be darker and some areas to be green. So the areas where we want green, I'm just going to use the side of the Tailor chalk, and I'm just going to lightly put some blue on top of the areas where I see green. Okay. That way, when those colors mix together, they're going to give me a green. So there's some green down here and some green over here. And then I have some darkness on the pear over here. So I'm going to use more blue over here for the dark area. Nice, nice, nice. And then in just a tiny bit here to make it look like it's round. So I'm going to bring this up closer to you so you can see a little more um, clearly. You see how I've just put a hint of color on there because when we hit this with water, it's going to explode, right? But I don't want to do the water yet because I want to get some of that red in there. And so I'm going to come in. The center here is a little bit more orange. So again, I'm just going lightly with the edge, but I love the way these feel when you hold them in your hand. They're nice and chunky. Okay, so we've got this going. It'll give us some orange up in there, just lightly. And then there was some orange in here as well. Okay, so now I've got enough color in here that I can hit it with a brush and begin to get the color to come and combine together. Now I'm getting some color from my fingers everywhere. I love working with these because, you're putting your hands on the color and the art material, and I love that. Hey there, Jennifer. Oh, a whole bunch of people over on Whatnot. Welcome in, welcome in. Okay, so now we're going to come in with the brush and some water. So this is my Princeton Velvet Touch. What I like about the Princeton Velvet Touch is that you can use it with various water media, and it's a synthetic tip, so it keeps a nice tip to it. You can even use it with acrylics. I know they say they're mixed media, so you can also use them with oil, but my favorite is to use them with water media of all different types. Okay, so we're gonna mix this right on the page. See, there's our green exploding onto the page. So I'm going to kind of stick to the areas where I want it to be yellow and green. Because if I take the green and I'm combining it with orange, I'm going to start to get browns. And I'm not quite ready for the brown yet. So I'm sticking mostly with the areas that have the blue and the yellow. And then we're going to move into the areas that have the more of the red. Isn't that fun? See how the color is just exploding? Oh my gosh, I can't wait to bring this up to the camera for you. Okay, so here we go. And I am just stroking upwards, stroking in the direction that the pear is rounded. So I'm trying to make my marks in that same sort of shape. There we go. So now we've got the red in there. And I'm making quick strokes so I don't mix the color too much. All right. Now I'm pulling the color that's already mixed into other areas. So I didn't get this little area up here too much. Let's get that a little bit more green. There we go. Now I could end it right here and say, wow, that's cool. And that was fun, right? Just quick, especially if your objective is to just do some quick exercises to understand the form of an item, okay? The form of whatever it is that you're trying to draw. This is a quick way to do that, to mess around with form. But if you want to spend a little more time on it, then you can come in here and cause the colors to mix together more right on the surface. So that then you're blending the colors on the surface instead of just, now I've got much more orange going in here. And so I'm going to need to dip back into my water. So I have more water on my brush in order to, I'm doing more of a scrubbing motion right now because I want the colors to blend more. Okay, there we go. Now, there is you see this white right here? And that's a highlight, right? Now I can come back in with the white because ArtGraf has a white, which I love. I love, love, love this, that they have a white. But I'm not going to put the white on, and it comes in its own little protective case here. I'm not going to put the white on right now while it's wet because it'll melt into the background. I would wait until this dries in order to use the white. So we'll just set the white aside for a moment. What I want to do is put the little, you see the little red dots that are on there on the picture? So I'm going to use the Tailor chalk, and I'm just going to tap it, and we're going to get little marks. And I do like to do this when the surface is damp because you're going to see here in just a second, I'm going to bring it up for you. The color will release very nicely. There you go. So you see those little dots on there? Oh, that's because I'm tapping onto a damp surface here. So then I can see that as the surface is beginning to dry, less of this is releasing. So you can just bear that in mind, that less of it will release, and it gives it a bit of a different look if the paper is not wet. I'm going to show you that in just a second here. So I'm doing the same tapping motion. I'm doing the same tapping motion over here as I did over here, but this area right here was more wet and this area is becoming dry. So the nature of the little dots is different. Can you see that? The dots are different. Okay, so that's a basic review of how to use these dry Tailor chalks. Now let's go ahead and let's see, I'm so thrilled that I have the brown in there. I mean, it was so easy to make that brown, wasn't it? Ooh, let's see, maybe we can put the white in here now. And I'm just looking to see, yes, where that white area is. See, because what's underneath it is still wet, it's moving that red a little bit. If it were not still wet underneath there, I wouldn't get the red streaking, but let me show you. So you can pop some of the white back in there. There's some of the white pop back in there. But like I said, if it were fully dry, the white would sit on top and you wouldn't get all the streaking that you're getting right now because the color underneath it is still damp. Okay, let's go ahead then. And you know what? I'm just going to flip to another page. Woohoo! And the can's on. And now I'm going to go horizontally. Let me adjust this a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. Oops. There we go. And this goes over like that. Perfect. Now you see the whole thing. See, my fingers are beginning to get yucky. So back again to my damp cloth. The wipes here that I have in my studio. All right. So let's, working on white paper. Let's grab an image here. Eh, I really like these, like I said, this mountain scene right here. And this mountain scene came out of a calendar, but I like, I don't know where this is. It doesn't say where it is, but I like the variation here in the colors of the mountain. And I also want you to notice here, see these little ravines? The little ravines are kind of black, aren't they? Look up close. Can you see how the ravines are like a dark gray slash black? So we're going to add some of these colors, and then we're going to go back in with the, where did I put it? Where did I put it? Where did I put it? The little pot of graphite here, the ArtGraf graphite, and we're going to lay those ravines in. So we're going to do this as a quick one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this painting in front of me so that or this photograph in front of me. Mother Nature is so amazing in the way she paints, right? And then I'm going to change away from these bright colors like this. And I'm going to go to the set of Tailor chalks that are more earthy colors, right? There we are. So this is the Tailor shapes that are more earthy. Actually, let's go back to the other piece of paper because I'm going to swatch these for you. I'm going to show you what they look like. Okay. So let me grab that, right? This one that we were playing on. So up here, I'm going to show you what these colors look like that are in this set. This is probably my most favorite color, and the set is the sanguine. And so it looks very dark here, but it's going to look much more red when we hit it with water. This one is a yellow ochre. So this scene, look at all the yellow in that scene, right? Of that mountain. Holy moly. Okay, so we're going to, this one looks like an olive color, like that. But when you hit it with water, it's a yellow ochre. And then this is see how it's broken, but it doesn't matter. It's all pigment, right? This is kind of a light brown. This is a sepia or a dark, actually, this is a dark brown. And then we have sepia. So this one is so dark, it's almost black, but it's a sepia. Okay, come on, come out of there. Okay, this one. And then this is carbon, which is a carbon black. So I can either use the carbon black or I can use the ArtGraf. I'm going to show you the ArtGraf right now. This is the graphite, water-soluble graphite in a little pot. So let me go ahead and get some water, and I'll show you this one first. It's just a little block of graphite, but it is water soluble. It's so cool, y'all. And I'm just going to pull some off of there and go right here. So there is our beautiful, like steely gray graphite. It's awesome. I love it. And that was just this little water soluble block of graphite. Phenomenal. All right, hold on. And then let's just hit these other ones with some water so you can see the colors explode. See that sanguine is it's like red earth, right? You see there? It reminds me of the hills in Arizona. When you go out to Arizona and you see like beautiful red dirt on the side. See, here's the yellow ochre that looked very olivey brown. But when you hit it with water, what happens? It goes into that beautiful burst of yellow undertone, right? Then this is the next one, which is more like a light brown, a tan. Okay, there's your tan color. And then it's successively going to get darker. So there's a Van Dyke brown, which has kind of a reddish tint to it. And then here is the sepia, which is a sepia is a very, very dark, dark brown. A lot of old time calligraphy is done with sanguine and with sepia. You'll see that on a lot of old documents. And then this is the carbon, which is the darkest one here, the black, carbon black. Nice. And then to get the gray, of course, we've got the graphite here in the pot. Fabulous. Great, very organic colors, right? So we're going to use these colors to create the mountains. We're going to do just and this is going to be very impressionistic, okay? This is not, we're doing it quick, quick, quick. So I'm not trying to render the mountains exactly. We're just trying to get a feel for the mountains, very impressionistic. And also, um, uh, so we're not here for hours. Here we go. So I am going to start with my favorite, sanguine. And we've got these mountains are just so interesting the way they have stripes in them like this. So obviously the ground, there was an upheaval, right? And the ground went like that. Now, besides using the tip to just get the shape of the topography here, I'm also going to be using the side to cover a big area, right? So then there are stripes here. It comes along like this, and along like this, and along like this. So the stripes there's a little bit of a breakup around the stripes like that. So I'm just looking at the picture and giving this a kind of okay. Now you could have done this with a pencil if you wanted to, if you're more comfortable using a pencil. Now there's a tiny bit over here, so I'm going to go very lightly and a little bit right there. And then there's some more down in here. Again, very lightly with this. The color's not too dark. And then there's a big section, so I'm going to use this. There's a big section, and I'm going to use it on its side right here to sort of cover that area. Isn't that fun? It's so fast to cover your areas with this. Doop, like that. All right. And then there's a little bit more down in here, like that. And a little bit more in here, like that. Okay. So this is just, I'm looking at the image here, and I'm getting a feel for where the red is. Now there's some more red above this, right up in here. Okay, so the harder I push, the more of the Tailor chalk I'm putting down. Now the rest of it is, for the most part, is this yellow ochre. So I'm going to come in here with the yellow ochre in between that. And I'm making my stripes, which will become more apparent when I hit it with water, right? Right now, it just looks like scribble, but you'll see, you'll see, you'll see. Now there's a little bit of blue in these mountains, which is kind of cool. And I'm gonna, to get that blue effect, I'm gonna go to the blue one here, right? And I'm gonna grab the blue Tailor chalk out of the set. There we go. And I can see there's a little bit of blue up in here, a little bit of blue here. So where there's no color, I'm just bringing a little bit of blue in. There's a little bit of blue down here. There's some blue over this way. So I'm just looking and throwing down color. And it's right now, it's just very loose, right? Yes, I got a bunch of blue there. There's some blue over here. And a little bit of blue up in here. There we go. So I'll set that one aside and we'll come back to this one. There's actually a ridge that comes along here and then up and then up and then up here. So I'm sort of drawing in some of the shapes here with the yellow because the yellow is quite predominant. And then this comes down this way. So I've got my sort of my hills going like that. This one, the side comes up like this. Okay, so I'm getting my various depths of field here. And then we've got something that sort of cuts in like that, the tops of the mountains. And then over here, we've got something that comes along like this. Okay, cool. So that's the variation of the mountain ridges there. Actually, this one right here comes down like this and across here. So I'm just pushing harder to get some of that going. And I've got some yellow over this way, some yellow up here. You see how easy it is to start building your pattern. And we're going to hit this with water, and then we're going to come back in with the blue and the graphite and maybe some of the carbon in order to really define these areas. Oops, I see a little more red over here. It sort of comes across the side like this. It's the sanguine. And if you've worked with these blocks, then hey, Bubble Bead, welcome in. If you've worked with the blocks before, then you know that this scribble is going to explode into so much color. And so you don't have to put a lot on. You can actually come back in later, of course, and define and add more. We're just creating a background right now with the edges of the Tailor chalks. So if you weren't here earlier, I'm using the ArtGraf Tailor chalks, which are a dry media, but they also are water soluble. So um, they will turn into paint once I go ahead and um, add water to this. So it just looks like a hot mess right now, but you'll start to see it. You'll see it. It's amazing what happens once you add the water in. Okay, and this one actually down here, it kind of goes along there like this. Okay, I'm not going to get too crazy on what's up close. Let's just focus on this back area right here, okay? So now we're ready to add some water and make the magic happen. What I'm going to do is the other brush I used on the Pear was a size 6 Velvet Touch. I'm going to move up to the size 10, so a bigger brush. You can use an 8 or a 10. And I'm going to start in the areas that are yellow, right? Because if I start in the yellows that are have this orange sanguine, and then I move to the yellow, I'm going to end up with a bunch of mishmash orange. So I'm going to try to focus on the areas right now where there's yellow here. Oh, you can see it's just, it's blending right in there. Okay, what the heck? I'll do this. So you see how it explodes into color. It's so fabulous. So fabulous. I just love painting with these. Okay, I'm just going to go across the top of the mountain right now to sort of define that line. And then I'm going to come back in here. We've got that little bit of blue in there. I don't want to wipe over the blue too much because if I do, what'll happen is the blue will combine with that, the yellow, and it'll start to give me green, and I don't want green, I want blue. So sometimes you have to be a little more kind of quick with your strokes. There we go. And this is the image, if you weren't here earlier, this is the image that I'm looking at in order to create this sketch with the Tailor chalks. So I like using water soluble dry media like this in order to do sketches before maybe going in with oil paint, before doing an oil painting or an acrylic painting. I think it's good to sketch out your ideas and then make decisions on what you might want to change. But you've just, like, I've barely used any of this, right? So they will go a long, 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 long way. Okay, let's get some more of the yellow up in here. Oh, see, I'm starting to get some green here because I had yellow on my brush when I wiped over the, I'm sorry, I had blue on my brush when I wiped over the yellow. There we go. So real quick, like I picked up the, I picked that up. There we go. Oh, so pretty. Isn't the sanguine amazing? This very earthy red color is just fabulous. Okay, let's do that. So you are making sure that you rinse off your brush often, okay? Now, there's a lot of water up here, so I'm just gonna take the edge of my paper towel and I'm gonna soak that up because I don't want it to take forever to dry. Okay, we come in here, get a little bit more of that going. Nice. And then here, I'm gonna just go along the tops of, this is more mountain here in the foreground. And of course, I would normally take more time and really work on this foreground as well. But for right now, we're just gonna work more on the background. Just so you can see what I do with the darker colors and the graphite. Okay, so this gives you a basic idea of just getting your first layer down. And some of it is damp and running into each other, and I love that. Again, this is what we're looking at. But now it just looks like a mishmash of color, right? You need to start coming in with these darker colors here, the darker browns and the blacks, to really define these areas here. So after getting the lighter colors down, then I would come in with the chalks. Let's see, which darker colors do I want? I'm going to go with this one, which is like a medium brown. And I'm going to start here. There's a ravine that starts here. If your surface is damp, then it'll release more color from here. So we have a ravine that comes down like this and then also goes up this way. And then a lot of that there. It's quite dark in here, which means I want the sepia down in here a little bit more. And now we can start drawing with it in order to start defining the shapes of the mountain. And this is actually darker. It comes up like this and then like this. Now, I could dip the tip of this in water like that, which I love to do. And then let's see where this mountain is right here. We've got, oh, this comes down. You see how much more color it releases when you do that? I love dipping them into the water. Okay. So it already begins to do that process for you. You just have to make sure that before you put this away and cover it up, that you let these dry. Okay. So I can go back and forth. Let me get the edge of this one wet and bring more of this into here and start to really like define what's going on here and bringing in more color. You see how fun that is? Oh my gosh. Now I could even get this one, which is the lightest color, wet. And there's a small ravine here. And it's just going to lay down more of that, more intensity of the color, right? And then I can come in over top of it here. Aren't these unusual? It's like so unusual, these Tailor chalks, but I love, love, love working with them. Okay, so you can see how this is beginning to develop. Um, Let me see, there's another area over here that if I get that wet right here, it kind of comes up here. The color's just exploding right onto there. That is so fun. And then, of course, I can come in with my brush and I can spread this a little bit while it's still damp and get some layering going, a little more definition going there. But when you get the Tailor chalks wet, what happens is it releases more of the color. There we go. So that's how I would go in and work on building the imagery. Start with just a quick and simple background and then start coming back on with some of the other dry media. Now I'm hitting the dry with some wet here so that you can see that start to develop, right? And then I would just work with it to do a painting, even impressionistic of this mountain range. I would probably spend about 3 hours on it, going back and forth between the wet and the dry in order to render this sort of image. I know I've had people ask me before, like, how long do you spend on your paintings? So I figure you might want to know how that works. And so that's what I would do with an image like this, is go back and forth with these. Now I am going to show you again this one, and this one was more um, simple, gestural, quick, and then just hit it with a brush and not worry too much about it. This was a landscape where I did watercolor in the background and then came back on with scribble of these in order to get the other color in there. So I already had a basic landscape. Hey, Adam Rips, welcome in, welcome in. Before I put the Tailor chalks on it. Now let's go ahead and look at the blue that I created. Remember I said I created this blue background? And so let's do something with the white on top of the blue background. Let's see if it does anything for us, right? What kind of image do I want to do? Maybe I'll do the blue. Ooh, blue and green. Okay, once again, this is from a calendar. And you see this right here where there's a bunch of white and there is this kind of green coming up here. I think that's like the Northern Lights, right? So I'm going to put that reference picture in front of me here. And let's move these out of the way. They're going to have to dry, aren't they? Before I put them back in there. And then we're going to open up this green one right here. And we're going to play with that concept a little bit and see what we get. So if I go straight over this dark blue with the green, when I hit it with water, I don't think you're going to see anything, right? You're barely going to see anything, but that's what the color looks like, super bright. So what I'm going to do first is everywhere that I want white and green, I'm going to go in with the white. So let's do that. I'm just going to do there's a line here. So this is a Tailor chalk, um, but it's pigment, water soluble pigment. So let's do this. We've got some rocks over here. And the cool thing is the rocks are blue. And there's a little bit of reflection of the rocks down here. And then we've got, it almost looks like snow, but I think it's more water. And the interesting thing is that the surface, because I created the surface myself, the surface has texture too. Do you see the texture there? There's a whole bunch of texture here when I'm running the edge of this over top of it because I created the background myself and with using the medium, this heavy density, high density medium with some acrylic paint color. So that's cool right there. Let's get a little bit more of it in here. Ooh, lovely. And then there's right here, there's a lot of white. There is a lot of white. So let's push the white up here. And then there is a swath of blue. And then there's some more white up here. And then there's green. So everywhere that I want the green to show, I'm actually going to put white first. So again, I'm using it on its side. And there's a bunch of green here. It's just beautiful, the northern lights. And so I'm laying in a bunch of white. That way that green can sit on top. Let's do this here, I like that. All right, so I want a little more white down here. I just love that texture. The texture is awesome. And there's some white like this. Now I do have blue here. So I'm actually going to put a little bit of blue up in here to just give me some definition. You'll be able to see some of the definition where the blue goes. Right, just to work in to the surface there. And then I'm going to work into these sort of cliffs over here with the blue. So what I like is that this blue is a little bit darker than the blue background. And when I put the blue over the white, I get some other variation. All right, and then there's a little more blue in here. Darkness. And then there's some more blue here. All right, so that sort of defines some of the other areas. Let's go along there. And then we're going to put some of the green up here. So now the green is going to go over top of the white. So that will help the green to show up. Because when we just put the green on top of the blue, it doesn't show up. But now if I put the green on top of the white, it does show up. There we go. I don't know what's going to happen when we hit this with water. We will find that out together, won't we? Okay, there we go. Like that. And then there's a little bit of reflection down here of some of that green, right along the mountain. All right. Let's see what's going to happen when we hit it with water. I haven't worked on the dark backgrounds with these ArtGraf Tailor blocks before. So let's just see what happens. I don't want too much water because otherwise the color will literally melt away. It'll melt. So let's just hit, oh, look at that. Look at what the white is doing. So the white is becoming more like we're getting more coverage out of that white there. So that's sort of like white. There's some white clouds there. And actually the white clouds blend into some of the blue. So I'm going to put some of the blue along the edge here so that we can get a blend. All right. So we're going to blend this up so that it gives us sort of a light blue going up into the dark blue, right? Oh, fun. So I'm bringing some of that blue down in here. And I can go in with a paper towel and I could soften that edge. And remember, this could be layer one, and I may go in and do layer, layer, layer with going back and forth between the white and the colors. All right, let's do some of the dark blue here. So I want to keep a little bit of that darker. And I'm leaving some in the back of the background too, because I like the background color. Let's just tap this off so I don't have too much color and let some of the background color show through. Nice. Oh, that's interesting. Kind of fun, right? And then let's go with the green at the top here. So this is very wispy. It looks quite wispy, the way the color's coming in. Now having that white there is really making the green look quite minty, isn't it? Quite pale. But I can always add more green as this dries, right? So this is coming up from the background. At least now you don't see the you don't see that dark blue, right? Behind it, I'm able to cover the dark blue with this green because I put the white in the background. Okay. Hey there, Natalia Votanova. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm showing painting with the ArtGraf water-soluble Tailor chalks. And at this point, I'm working on top of um, a tinted surface, a surface that I added uh, acrylic paint, blue acrylic paint to this high density modeling paste, which has a gritty surface. And then that makes it a good surface for pastels. And in this case, for these ArtGraf blocks, color blocks. Okay, cool, cool. The nice thing is I can scrub back into here. So if I feel like I've covered up the texture too much in the background, then I can literally go in. So there's some wispiness here, but some of the wispiness is actually supposed to be blue. So what am I doing? I'm going back in just with water and I'm picking up some of that white and green while it's still damp so that I can bring some of the blue back in there. And the reason for that is that's what's on the image right here. You see the blue here. So I'm able to, while it's wet, still go in and lift that back up. Now there are special brushes for doing this kind of lifting. And I'm going to show you one of those right now. It's this Princeton blender. It's also part of the Velvet Touch line. And it has a stiffer set of bristles here. So it helps you to really, if there's texture on your surface like there is here, it helps to make it easier to get down inside this texture and lift it out. Isn't that fun? There we go. So I can lift out some of that and blend some of it together here. This is only the first layer, so I would normally work on something like this, probably 4-ish layers of my Viarco um, Tailor chalks, going back and forth, scrubbing a little bit, removing, adding. There we go. So we'll get more of the blue out of there with the stiffer bristles, or more of the green out of there and expose the blue. There we go. So isn't that fun? And here I'm just gonna do some wispiness on the edges because that's what it is. It's very, the clouds up here, the cloudscape is very wispy. But I would definitely come back in and build more of that green, let more of the sky show through, work a little bit more down here on the clouds. Do you see the clouds right there? Right in there, the white. But I could come back, like this is basically dry. So I could come back with the ArtGraf and add some more in here of this part of the sky. And then if I wanted to push the color into the texture, you see the texture of the background there? But if I wanted to push more color down inside that texture, I would use this blender brush because then it would push that color down inside the texture. You see how that works? So now that white is more covering the area more instead of the texture showing like that. Now I'm just going lightly, adding some streaks into the blue, right? Because this is a sky here. Okay, cool. So that's how I would work with these Tailor chalks on a tinted background. The white becomes really important when you're working on a tinted background in order for you to lay your other colors on top of it. Ooh, here's something interesting that's happening because I was scrubbing that a little bit. I don't know if you can see it, but they're like little sort of bubbles up in this area that are, it's gonna make it look a little bit grainy and interesting. Um, okay, again, there you go. That's the picture that I'm working from, which has a lot of blue. And then I would go back and forth with my blue Tailor chalk, my white Tailor chalk, and my green Tailor chalk here to render this image that came on a calendar that I purchased for myself. And look at all the beautiful um, landscapes that are there to play with these chalks. Oh, they're just so nice. All right, so that is the end of the workshop portion of the show.